This is VOA Africa.
Good evening, I'm Esther Gidhu Yuat. It's Tuesday, July 16th. This is Africa 54.
Aid agencies in Uganda face huge challenges following an influx of refugees from the Democratic Republic of Congo. One Girl Scout embarks on a mission to help girls in Zimbabwe lead healthier lives by taking simple steps. And the governor of Kisumu in Kenya discusses his experience fighting cancer and resolve to promote the prevention of cancer and provide support to patients.
Our top story tonight takes us to Uganda, where aid workers say the armed conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo has doubled the flow of refugees since June, straining humanitarian funding. Many DRC refugees brave the harsh waters of Lake Albert on the Uganda border to make the crossing to safety. Halima Thumani has more from the Sebagoro landing site in southwestern Uganda.
In the pitch-black hours of the early morning, a boatload of refugees from northeastern Congo arrives on Uganda's side of Lake Albert. Aid workers say the number of DRC refugees fleeing armed conflict has more than doubled since June to about 300 per day. Refugee Gipato Margaret says there has been intensive fighting in the last 2 weeks in the Congolese town of Chomia.
There are so many soldiers, yet the enemy rebel groups are in the surrounding forests. If they find a person in the garden, they kill you. They completely finish you. And when they see government soldiers, they follow and kill them. It was too much. There's a lot of gunfire nearby, and staying there got difficult. So we had to find a way out.
Refugee Joshua Oshaki lost contact with his wife during fighting in the DRC's Ituri region, but managed to escape with his 2 children.
We got here in the night. We travelled with children and other people. We moved in the cold. The children are suffering. We are hungry. We've lost property, clothes and money. We do not have peace in Congo.
Fighting over land, mineral wealth and politics has raged in eastern Congo for more than 2 decades. Uganda works with the UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, to register and transport new arrivals to camps that already shelter over 1 million refugees, 350,000 of them from the DRC. The UNHCR's deputy representative to Uganda, Kemlyn Farley, says the influx of refugees is straining their funding.
It's about 17% of all the needs that need to be covered. So this new influx is definitely challenging. You know, we're short of funds for the assistance that they need immediately, life-saving assistance upon arrival.
The World Food Programme says it is managing to provide aid for the new refugees, but warns its budget won't last long.
At this point in time, we are scheduled to run out of food and cash by September, and so we do urgently need new contributions in order to ensure that we can continue to feed the refugees.
Meanwhile, there seems no end to the flow of DRC refugees fleeing for safety to Uganda. Halima Thumani for VOA News on the shore of Lake Albert, Uganda.
Nigeria's National Emergency Management Agency is providing farm inputs to no fewer than 12,000 farmers in Niger State who were affected by the 2018 flood disaster. The beneficiaries are from the 15 worst-hit local government areas of the state. The emergency agency says the intervention is part of its effort to ensure food security. Here is Emperor Simon of Channels Television.
Large expanse of land underwater after torrential rainfall in parts of the country last year. Niger is one of the most affected states, where many houses and farmlands were ruined. The State Emergency Management Agency says more than 40 persons lost their lives and thousands of residents displaced and stripped of their sources of livelihood. Most of the displaced persons are farmers who have either not returned to their farms or are operating below capacity. The National Emergency Management Agency is providing intervention to the flood victims in form of farm input such as improved seedlings, agro-allied chemicals, among others.
The aim of the intervention is simply to improve the food security. Because as I told you earlier on, this intervention is in two phases. We have the flood-impacted states and we have the conflict-impacted states across the Federation. All in all, we have 21 states affected by flood and conflict, but only 18 were being affected by floods. But you have some states that have the two scenarios. That's the case of the flood and the conflict. Like Benue State is addressing the issue of conflict and flood. We have Adamawa and Borno State too. But like Niger, we're particularly addressing only flood issues.
The state government is happy with the intervention, as it will help the farmers recover from their loss and contribute to food production.
Most of our people are rural-based, and the major activities that we know here is farming. So whatever affects our farmers affect the government, because the burden will be too much in government. So once anything happens to our farmers, the state government is very disturbed, and His Excellency has prepared fully to make sure we support the farmers. There are some programs that is ongoing, but coming to what is happening now again, this will now boost the food agriculture.
While appreciating the support, the farmers recount their experience during the flood disaster.
We lost many of our farms and products, so that life became difficult for all of us, because that is our hope. That is what we expected to take care of our lives. Now that was gone, and our hope was dashed for the year. Well, I thank God, and I thank the federal government and indeed NEMA for this effort of making life more hopeful now.
2018, the disaster of water spoiled our whole domestic crops, such as yams, rice, soybeans, sugarcane, and others. Actually, we really affected on this water damage.
The rains are here, and the fear of flood disaster this year is on the mind of these farmers, even as they receive interventions from the National Emergency Management Agency. The agency says that apart from providing this intervention, it will continue to engage them in dialogue on the need to imbibe practices that will mitigate flood disaster when it occurs. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Simple tasks such as washing hands or brushing teeth can prevent diseases and help people enjoy a healthier life. The idea of raising awareness about health habits was the inspiration behind a Girl Scouts project that so motivated one scout that she ended up embarking on a passionate journey to help other girls thousands of miles away. Faiza El Masri reports, and VOA's Faith Lapidus narrates.
Years of being a Girl Scout prepared Nyla Mpofu to serve others.
When it was time for my Gold Award, I was trying to think outside the box. So I decided to help girls in Zimbabwe.
The 16-year-old high school student made collection boxes available at various locations in her Virginia neighborhood for people to donate personal health products and clothes.
After that, I just started receiving donations endlessly and getting the word out with my friends, and then they told their parents and stuff.
Right now, we are currently getting the care packages together.
Months of generous donations resulted in mountains of daily essentials and feminine hygiene products she needed for the project.
So inside the bags, I have a toothbrush and a towel, and then underwear. And when I get down to Zimbabwe, I'm going to be adding toothpaste and extra towels and pads.
Help for Others is a local nonprofit run by Nyla's mother, Gloria Mpofu.
I supported her in, helping her with the flyers, just helping her to get the word out and connecting her with, individuals in Zimbabwe.
Nyla traveled to Zimbabwe and met with teen girls in suburban areas, distributing the donated care packages and holding a seminar on hygiene.
They talked about how it's important, simple things as just washing hands, just being able to maintain a clean environment can help, the girls and the women in the communities just have a healthier lifestyle.
Nyla also gave printed information to the participants.
They can look back and teach it to their younger siblings, or just for themselves to have knowledge about hygiene and the menstrual cycle and stuff like that.
A project that began as a way to help girls in Zimbabwe ended up showing Nyla her future potential.
And it made me realize that I could do so much and to not think lower about any situation that I'm in because of taking the lead in this role and planning the events and stuff like that. So it was a great impact.
And the sweet memory of the trip, she says, is priceless. For writer Faiza El Masri in Sterling, Virginia, Faith Lapidus, VOA News.
President John Magufuli is urging Tanzanian women to, quote, set your ovaries free and bear more children as a way to help boost the economy, a step critics say will instead worsen inequality and poverty. Anna Bevan has more.
Tanzanians have expressed mixed views after their president made a controversial speech urging women in the country to, quote, set your ovaries free. President John Magufuli wants women to bear more children to help boost the economy. In a speech last week, he cited China and Nigeria as examples of countries that have benefited economically from population increases. But critics say more children would actually worsen inequality and poverty in the country.
From my perspective, the more we procreate, the more our economy continues to go down, because people aren't able to afford to pay school fees or even take care of their families.
Others say if the government wants the population to rise, they need to do more to help support families.
I think it's a good idea. People should have children, but we would like government support. They should help by building facilities for people like hospitals and schools. They should make it affordable for people to have access to those facilities.
Since taking office in 2015, Magufuli has launched an industrialization campaign that has helped buoy economic growth. It's averaged 6 to 7% annually in recent years. But Magufuli has said a higher birth rate would achieve faster progress.
I don't think it's a bad idea. As long as he's the head of the country and he's allowed it, we shouldn't restrain ourselves.
Tanzania already has one of the world's highest birth rates at around 5 children per woman.
That was Anna Bevan of Reuters reporting. The problems continue to mount for American singer R. Kelly, who is due in a Chicago court Tuesday for a bond hearing on separate indictments in Chicago and New York on federal sex crimes and obstruction of justice. The rhythm and blues artist, whose real name is Robert Kelly, already faced sexual abuse charges before his arrest 5 days ago in Chicago. An attorney for one of Kelly's accusers says he paid millions to keep one victim and her parents silent.
Kelly also bragged to associate number one that he had dotted his I's and crossed his T's, quote unquote, and that the young girl who was depicted in the videos and the young girl's family would not testify against him in connection with the trial because he had relocated them and paid them off. It was subsequently learned that Mr. Kelly, through multiple means, had paid the young victim and her family over $2 million not to testify and come forward in connection with the 2008 trial.
The 52-year-old Grammy winner was acquitted in that child pornography case, but he could not shake the legal jeopardy surrounding allegations he has abused young girls. Kelly has faced mounting legal troubles this year after the American-based Lifetime Network aired the documentary Surviving R. Kelly, which revisited allegations of sexual abuse of girls. We'll be right back.
Portuguese,
Bantu,
Arabic.
It is the beat.
The African beat that counts.
The beat does all the translations.
It cuts across all languages and gives us the understanding that this is the African beat.
It is so distinct
and adhesive.
It binds us together.
African beat on the Voice of America. For more information, visit our website at www.voanews.com/AfricanBeat.
I am Sheikh Sali, host and senior editor of VOA's international call-in talk show, Straight Talk Africa.
Today we'll examine the tobacco industry.
We pretty much touch on anything that you can think of. Politics, health issues, human rights issues, you name it, we talk about it. The issues that we discuss are pertinent to most people on the African continent. A very, very rare and unique opportunity to interact with their leaders.
A feud is escalating between U.S. President Donald Trump and Democrats after the president launched what some consider to be racist attacks against 4 congresswomen of color, telling them to, quote, go back to where they came from. VOA White House correspondent Patsy Widakuswara has this story.
It was supposed to be a day to celebrate products made in America, including this anti-ballistic missile defense system on display on the White House lawn. But things quickly devolved.
If you hate our country, if you're not happy here, you can leave.
The president was responding to a question about his Twitter attacks against 4 Democratic congresswomen, including Ilhan Omar, an American Muslim born in Somalia.
When I hear the way they talk about our country, when I hear the anti-Semitic language they use, when I hear the hatred they have for Israel and the love they have for enemies like Al-Qaeda, then you know what? I will tell you that I do not believe this is good for the Democrat Party.
Other than Omar, Democratic congresswomen of color targeted by Trump include Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, and Ayanna Pressley. They condemned the president's remarks as racist.
He would love nothing more than to divide our country based on race, religion, gender, orientation, or immigration status. Because this is the only way he knows he can prevent the solidarity of us working together across all of our differences.
The president's remarks came as his administration announced changes making it harder for foreigners to seek asylum in the United States at the southern border. Critics say the new rule announced Monday is illegal and will be challenged in court.
Congress said very clearly that if you pass through a safe third country, as evidenced by an agreement, you can be blocked from getting asylum. This administration now is saying, we're going to create a new rule which says if you pass through any third country, you can be blocked from getting asylum.
Trump also said his administration continues to arrest illegal immigrants around the country, though there has been no sign of the large-scale operation the president has promised. Patsy Widakuswara, VOA News at the White House.
The mother of a woman killed by a white nationalist in the U.S. state of Virginia says she is relieved that he will spend the rest of his life behind bars. James Fields was sentenced to 2 life terms in prison Monday for ramming his car into a crowd protesting a white supremacist rally in Virginia in 2017, killing Heather Heyer, 32, and injuring nearly 24 other people.
That the lesson on consequences did anything for Mr. Fields, but I want it very clear in the public realm that not only does the United States hold these actions to be quite serious with serious consequences, but also the state of Virginia is not tolerating them, and I think that message is sent loud and clear today.
The car ramming incident came after a day of tension and physical clashes between hundreds of white supremacists and neo-Nazis and groups of opposing demonstrators. The white supremacists had assembled in Charlottesville to protest the removal of statues honoring 2 Confederate generals of the U.S. Civil War. President Donald Trump sparked controversy after the event when he blamed the violence at the rally on both sides. It's time for our health report, and joining us now is Africa 54 health correspondent Lino Mudu with an update on a new case of Ebola in DRC. Lino.
That's right, Esther. The World Health Organization is warning that the first detected Ebola case in the eastern DRC city of Goma could be a game changer in the scale of the outbreak. An emergency meeting on the DRC outbreak is set to take place Wednesday in Switzerland. The aim of the meeting is for DRC representatives, UN health experts, and partners to decide whether the situation warrants declaring an international emergency guided by international health regulations. UNICEF warns that the epidemic is proving deadlier among children under 5 than ever before. While the infection was being identified, 2 health workers were killed by unidentified attackers. Nearly 2,500 people have been infected and more than 1,600 killed in the second largest outbreak on record.
Goma is a city of 2 million people near the border with Rwanda and is a gateway to the region and the world. We're confident in the measures we're put in place and hope that we will see no further transmission of Ebola in Goma. Both of these events encapsulate the challenges we continue to face on a daily basis in DRC. Just when we start to get control of the virus in one area, it appears in another.
3,000 health workers have so far been vaccinated against the disease in Goma, a city of about 1 million people south of the outbreak's epicenter. Researchers in Europe have published the results of a multi-center study that reveals a correlation between inflammatory and antioxidant diets and the risk of developing colorectal and breast cancer. An inflammatory diet is usually characterized by the consumption of refined carbohydrates, red and processed meat, and saturated or trans fats. In an antioxidant diet, the consumption of vegetables, legumes, fruits, and nuts predominates. The researchers focused on the role of diet and specifically on its inflammatory and antioxidant capacity, noting evidence that both chronic inflammation and oxidative stress influence the development of colorectal and breast cancer. On a positive note, the researchers say this is a modifiable factor and that it can be changed. Prostate cancer is a leading cancer among men worldwide, and observers say there is a need for more awareness about the disease in sub-Saharan Africa. Professor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o is governor of Kisumu, Kenya, and a prostate cancer survivor. He discusses how his experience fighting cancer while Kenya's Minister of Medical Services was a critical moment in shedding a light on the need to address and improve cancer care in his country.
I think what it reminded me of is the need for people to know about cancer, to be aware that it's a problem for everybody. And that means that for prostate cancer in particular, that men over 45 should go for regular checkup so that they know every year what their PSA status is, because the earlier it is discovered, the better it is for success of treatment. At the beginning, even people in government were extremely ignorant about the menace of cancer. And I think there was a denial, really, on the part of government. But I think after that I spoke out very, very openly. And then another colleague of mine who was in the Ministry of Health, there were 2 ministries of health, Ministry of Medical Services, which I headed, and then Ministry of Public Health, which my colleague Beth Mugo headed. As fate would have it, after I'd gone through my experience, she too had breast cancer and started speaking out about it. Then government started taking cancer issue much more seriously. And I think since then there have been many more institutions, both in the private and the public domain, which have improved their capacity and capability to deal with cancer in general and prostate cancer in particular. But still, the capacity and capability is not enough. We still need more trained oncologists, and not just oncologists in general, but oncologists in specific areas of cancer oncologists who know something about breast cancer, neck cancer, throat cancer, prostate cancer, and so on. If you come to this country, for example, and you go to a cancer center like this one, Dana Feba, you'll find that almost every part of the body that can be attacked with cancer has some specialist who knows something about it and who can help you when you are sick. I mean, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. I found out that within Kenya I wouldn't get any kind of help, so I sought help elsewhere, and finally I got treated in California, University of California, San Francisco. And that raised an ethical crisis for me. Yes, I can go and get treated in California. What about the ordinary Kenyans who can't afford it, you see? And that's why we started the Africa Cancer Foundation, to struggle for building the capacity and capability to deal with cancer in Kenya. It's a long journey, and it's not an easy journey, because along the way you have problems of resources, you have problems of political will, as you are talking about it. But fortunately now the political will is there. What is important is the resources for both training people who can deal with cancer as professionals, but also building the institutions themselves.
Dorothy Nyong'o is Managing Trustee of the Africa Cancer Foundation and First Lady of Kisumu, Kenya. She elaborates on the work of the foundation dedicated to promote the prevention of cancer and provide support to cancer patients in Kenya and beyond.
There are lots of myths around cancer, and in some communities it's a little worse than others. And we also find that there are barriers such as women not seeking health care on their own. They have to get permission from their husbands and so on. So we just talk to the people gently and we explain what it is. And we find that they are responsive, they listen, and eventually they understand that cancer is not a death sentence. It should be detected early, and if so, there is hope. We've been screening now for the last 8 or so years. We've screened over 22,000 people, and we find that the incidence of cancers is quite high. We refer them for further diagnosis and treatment, and we try and handhold them so that they go through the process. It's not an easy journey, but we have saved some lives. The message is, go for regular checkups. If you can do this on your birthday, give yourself that treat, because if your cancer is detected early, you have lots of hope. There's chances that you will be healed, and it will also not cost so much. So we really want to just encourage that, and for people to be aware of what they should be eating, and lifestyle issues become more involved in physical activities and so on.
And that's our report, Esther.
Thank you. Very great segment, Lino. Thank you so much. Join Lino Mudu on Tuesday for another health segment. And that's our show for today. Good night from Washington.